It's probably about right because it's 80s version, but eventually this will be worth more. She's somebody's mom now.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hey everybody, it's George the Antique Nomad, and I am packing for a show. I usually do a big show in the mountains of Washington every Memorial Day and every Labor Day, but it has been canceled, so I found the next best thing, or maybe a better thing, we'll find out. I'm on my way to Sparks, Kansas, which is where Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri meet, more or less. It's a little ghost town with 9 people, but twice a year it explodes into a huge flea market where tens of thousands of people show up. It's actually an antique and collectible flea market. I don't do usual general flea markets for antique stuff, so this will be really fun. I am packing and getting ready for that. So what I wanted to show you in tonight's video is actually some other flea marketing I did recently. This giant Afghan was a prize that we found somewhere along our travels. It is enormous. I've never seen one this big. Apparently this size are selling for over $100. There'll also be a haul video at the end of this one, so you can see some of the stuff that I found at the flea markets and am taking to the show this weekend. This nice find here actually came from Fatbird Finds. I watched them buy it at auction and it was full of cool little stuff, and they didn't have a use for the trunking, so I bought it from them. That's how it works sometimes in the dealer trade. Everybody gets the thing they need and sends it on to the next person until it finds its way to the ultimate collector. I want to thank everybody who left comments after the last video talking about the kind of content you'd like to see at the Antique Nomad in year 2. We just had our first anniversary. We also announced at that anniversary that we're going to offer memberships, and thank you, a bunch of you joined. If you are interested in what membership is about, there's a few videos back in my playlist that you can watch. If you're not a member, we're going to keep on bringing the same great content we have, but if you are a member, click the community tab and you can see posts about our upcoming live stream. Anyway, in the meantime, thank you all for watching and on with the show. We are at a flea market outside of a huge antique mall in Franklin, Kentucky, and this is just north of the Tennessee border on the Highway 65 between Louisville and Nashville. This place is quite large inside. I've been here before, but I haven't been here for one of their flea markets. I think they did this to kick off the fact that they're reopened now and to bring out a crowd. So let's take a look and see what people brought. This is one of these Shensham carved screens from India, and it's a little darker stain than I usually see. They're nice because they're not really heavy, so you get a good room divider that's fairly portable. And I'll have to take a look and see how much that is. So she's got some cute pieces of furniture, and they're only $25 each, which is a great deal. I don't really have room for furniture though, unfortunately. These look like little pine cupboards. Yeah, they're nice though.
Yeah, they were some good pieces at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. They will be again.
I hope so.
I was just curious how much this guy was.
15.
15? They would have originally had a key to open them up. This would have been connected to a master clock in a factory a lot of times so that they would be able to keep track of it was for the night watchman walking around. Does it all work?
These two do.
These two do?
Yep, I fixed both of them.
Oh, neat. What'd you have to do to this one?
I had to put some new capacitors in it.
Yeah.
And maybe change 2 tubes.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah, they usually are pretty solid. How much is that one?
That one is 60.
Yeah, it's nice.
Hold on just a minute. That's 1952.
52?
Right.
Cool. No, didn't think it was the original. Looks like an American bisque one. Cookie Time. Cookie Time comes up a lot on those jars. The jar on Friends was a treasure craft that was Cookie Time. The Keystone parking garage is cool. Yeah, this would be, and this turns and the doors open and shut. It would be real gentle there. Yeah, oh, that's neat. Probably from about 1950, I would say, and then the cars come out. Keystone made a lot of cast iron originally, but I think they were getting out of that by then. Yeah, so far I gotta say I'm seeing mostly retail prices, so it's not really flea market price out here, but we'll see if there's something in another spot. That's a cool bike. AMX Swift Hornet with the banana seat. Looks to me like it is probably restored because it's so clean. Looks like new tires and stuff, but it is an original. You can tell up here because it's got the you can see the cracks in the rubber, so that's an original piece. So it's not a reproduction, but I think it's been redone because it's just so perfect. Yeah, I like the old stools too.
Oh yeah, they're like ice cream parlors.
Yep.
They're pretty neat.
Yeah.
Good morning to you, sir. All pretty good.
How much are the stools?
They're blowing my buddy Lynn.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Here's
sorry about that.
stools, Lynn.
Just curious how much?
40 a piece.
40 a piece. Okay, thank you. Yeah, these are the kind that they just drop right in, and that's the swivel. There's no mechanics to it or anything. It's just the way it is.
Yes, sir. I sure will.
Some other cool stuff here too. This is the old seal test where the Merry Christmas, basically it's an ad, but they put Merry Christmas on it so they had an excuse to give it to you. But it's the old seal test ice cream, $3 for the measure. That's really not bad. Might take that actually. Kansas Farm Bureau. You see these old signs a lot. Farm bureaus would insure you, and then you'd have the sign so that you could prove to everybody that you had insurance on your property. The old 7-Up. This is when 7-Up actually wasn't all that popular. They didn't really have a theme for their advertising. It was sort of known as a hangover cure more than a soda. Progress Cooler, that's a neat sign on there. Oh, and they got a bunch of knotters, which people call bobbleheads nowadays, but the old ceramic top ones were always known as knotters before, and you can see why, because there they are doing their thing. This guy says kiss me, so that means he's got a magnet in his mouth, and there would have been a woman that they would come together. A lot of them got broken that way actually, and they were made in Japan. They kind of came up with this idea, I think, in the 50s. Canadian Mountie. You got to look at these closely to see, because a lot of times they would chip and start to lose their color, like he does on his chin there. Yeah, some were done in pairs and some were singles. This guy's in pretty good shape. Just some sort of a Scotsman in a kilt, it looks like. $12. I like that one. I think I might get that. Okay. Yeah, so Scotsman in a kilt, knotter or bobblehead, priced at $12. This lost a little bit of his color on the back. I'll have to decide whether that bothers me or not. I think he's cute enough. It might not make a whole lot of difference. This one is National League Baseball, and it's $50. The baseball ones tend to be more. Some of them are actually like they have now in the plastic. They're actual baseball players, and those can be really expensive. I can't be all bad. They like me. Oh yes, they're supposed to be pink elephants. He's a little drunk. $20 on that. That's kind of cute. I love you. Me too. And there you go. Those are cute. A little crack there. You got to watch for that on these because people would drop them pretty easy, but those are cute, and they're $40 for the pair. That's not a bad price for what they are. Boston Celtics. The basketball players are always more money. I don't see a price on this one, but I expect it's going to be up there. We'll find out. He's number 0. Oh, and he's got a chip underneath. That's another thing. These were just made out of almost like paper mache, so they really do tend to chip up, but he's cool. Looks like a drum majorette. And that's Lego, Japan. You see that name on a lot of stuff that was made in that era. She's kind of cute. That might be a maybe. I don't know. She might go with this schoolboy. Let's see if they have magnets. Yep. Let's kiss. Okay, they both have a book, so I think those two are the pair. Yeah, those two are a match.
like my son.
Ooh. Magnetic kiss. Dutch girl. She's 12 and she bops around. So I like old signs, and I think these are interesting because they're out of some old drugstore, and there's a whole bunch, and you've got rubber goods. You have aids, whatever those are, disinfectants, antiseptics, upside down there. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. Toys, ooh, there we go. And, oh, my favorite. I get a kick out of stuff like this, and people who collect various things, I'm not sure who collects this, but they'll be appealing to somebody, and I think they're cool. So this speedometer is off of some late 40s or early 50s car that I don't exactly recognize, but I like old speedometers and equipment, and somebody who does know what this is going to need it for their car, so I think I'm going to pick that up. This one's asking me about Lucky filters, so that's Lucky Strikes, probably from someone in a drugstore or something. It's a pinback, and it's going to be probably 1940s, 50s, and I like old smoking memorabilia and advertising pins, so I think I'll put that in the pile too. And then this one, whoa, gotta not drop stuff. This one is great. Use ox guanos for big yields. I don't know why you want a whole lot more ox guano, but I guess it works. Tennessee Chemical Company, Armor owned, aha, there we go. So this is from 1985. You can probably tell by the outfit, because if it's very bright, loud colors and polka dots and things that seem to sort of not match, then it's probably from the 80s. Virginia Slims were really the first cigarette made specifically marketed for women, and this, I think, was in the late 60s, and it was a big controversy at the time because that's right when Surgeon General warning is starting to be on things, and so the idea of advertising something specifically for women who were not smoking as much then was considered not necessarily a good thing in some quarters, but anyway, it's an interesting sign. It's 25 bucks, and it's probably about right because it's 80s Virgin, but eventually this will be worth more. She's somebody's mom now. And for our viewers in New Zealand, we found a tea linen for you. And I don't know if I like the kiwi better or the flag, but it's a good motif. Oh, I didn't see the Maori pattern on the bottom. That makes it really cool. So the cashier sign looks like it might have come out of a park somewhere, because when you see these routed like this, it usually seems like it's a state park or a national park. So, and it's double-sided, so that might be handy for somebody somewhere. $10, something to consider. Well, that was a fun booth because I got to buy a couple of little pieces of porcelain Japanese doll furniture, a little bathtub and a little refrigerator with the monitor top that were made in the 30s. These are little doll pieces. They're probably new old stock because they look like they've hardly ever been touched, but this one says Japan. It's from the 50s. And then this other one here is an old monitor top, like a General Electric monitor top. And this one says made in Japan, so it's going to be from the 30s. You can see that on the back there. And they're just sort of crudely molded, but again, for dollhouse miniatures, they were just a couple dollars each, and people do love miniatures. And then this, a Mickey Mouse bubble blower from Chemtoy. And this is some new old stock that was never used. They had a couple, and I picked the one that was in the best condition. From the 1960s, and the bubbles come blowing out of there. Triples. I always love the name Chemtoy. It sounds very dangerous. Yeah, I like that with the pie crust edge. It's got some design. And these are very 80s. Oh yeah, the chip and dip set. That's out of the 60s. That's kind of cool. They're big though, and I have a lot of big glass right now. I like that you actually have the cars with this.
Yeah, normally there's one car missing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was always 3 to a trailer.
Right, one on the underneath and 2 up on top.
But anyway,
Hey, at least it's got a couple. They're usually all missing.
Right.
And then that's neat, the Riding Academy. That's a Buddy L. That is a 61 Ford, I think, so that's going to put it in a place in time. I like the Skytop. They actually built cars with those kind of Skytops made out of plastic at Ford in the late 50s, and they were so hot on a summer day that you couldn't stand to be in them, so that only lasted a year or two. And then Structo is another good name. That's a nice piece. And they've got the gear, so when you roll it, it'll turn and it tips and the whole thing like a real concrete truck. And then the coolers are nice. Dr. Pepper is the hardest one to find, especially in the green color. And that was made by a company out of Louisville, Progress Refrigerator. We've got one last building here, and this has a bunch of different dealers in it. And this is a permanent building, so they're open every Tuesday, year-round. And this is where you're going to see more, because they don't have to pack it up every week, so it makes it easier. Little hull leaf, the small one. I sold the big one on my thrifting video. Cups and saucers. Usual stuff, some depression glass. Let's see if we can find something that jumps out here. This is Westmoreland glass. Only $6. It's really a good price. That powder blue with the white decoration would have been very popular in the late 60s, about the same time as white makeup, which really became popular around the time Twiggy was a model in the 67-68 period. Here's another one of these Italian figures that I've started to notice lately. You see the signature on the back there. Buglini, I believe is the name. And there are always these sort of whimsical characters. This one is watering her garden. Very 1970s motif. The bowl here is Watt pottery in the starflower pattern. Old Masonite fire alarm, and then next to this we have a really cool popsicle stick lamp. This is a type of really folk art done in the 50s, I would say, this particular one, and this one has the bridge deck design and the helix. This was a little harder to put together. You had to really think through your pattern before you made these. I really like these, and there's a bar in St. Petersburg, Florida that's probably not open right now, that is full of these sorts of things. The Old Key West Tavern, which is right down the street from St. Pete Vintage Modern, where I sell. And it's really cool when you have a bunch of these together. I'm going to have to ask his price on that. I just got a quilted picture like this. This one is a trash can with the ducks on it. This was a 1960s or 70s thing. Speed limit signs, they seem to sell. And then look at this crazy thing. Sold woven rack, and the holders are shoes. That is something different. Dill's pills help kidneys eliminate waste. There's a fun product for you. Down here is some copper lusterware. These are 1930s pieces in the front, and then the original Victorian in the back with the brown. Copper luster was considered very fancy, very shiny, and it reflected light in homes that only had gas lighting in the Victorian era. And then in the 1930s, there was nostalgia for them, so Gray's Pottery and some other English makers started making these white wares with the pink florals and other designs with copper luster trim. Next to it you have this Hull Pottery parrot with the planter behind. That's 1950s with the gloss glaze. There's a lot of salt and peppers in here, and two particularly notable ones. These are the ones with the skulls. These are Nodders. The one on the right is in pink luster, and the one on the left has a hand-painted floral. I believe these were made in Japan around the 1930s and then redone in the 1950s. Skulls have been a popular motif for collectors since the Victorian era. They were originally part of that Victorian medical scientific collecting, and they became a popular motif obviously for Halloween decorations. But just in general, they also have a lot of appeal to people who are into biking, for example, these days. And then the Huggy Bears. If you like something cuter, there's your alternative. Here's a big shelf full of salt and pepper shakers. Again, we've got the lusterware in the front. Down below here we have these strangely stylized gingham bears, I guess. Japan made some really interesting and sort of crazy designs. Then in the late 70s, just as now, it became very popular to put words all over everything, especially on tableware. So salt, pepper, very generic, very stark. Modernists like this, and it's definitely in keeping with today where people are really into signs. And then here in the salt and pepper realm, the ones I think are the most interesting are in the back here, the Humpty Dumpty. I'll try to get my reflection out of the way. There we go. And of course I always like the little alligators. Those are priced at $5 for the set, which is a pretty good price. I wanted to get these out and show them up close because these are not salt and pepper shakers, even though they're priced as a pair, and I think I'm going to buy them because one of them has a very good label telling us that it's Starnes of California. Starnes was one of the many small California potteries that sprung up during the Second World War and produced through the 1950s. But the reason I'm going to get these is because they're actually two separate items. See all the holes in the back? They are not salt and pepper shakers because look how big the opening on the bottom is. These were actually for hors d'oeuvres. You would do little toothpicks with cheeses and meats and petit fours and things like that and then display them that way. So I can take these and sell them separately, and I'm sure they'll go for $5 each. And if you don't mind a dog and a fire hydrant on your table, well, these are actually pretty cute. I'm not sure I'd want to eat salt and pepper that came out of them, but most people just collect these anyway. It may be display only, but I like this little red utility table. Small tables like this are always handy in a kitchen, and it's got that 50s look. Now, this chrome is probably corroded enough that it won't come completely clean, but notice right here something scraped it and most of that came off. If you use fine steel wool, the likelihood is you can get a lot of that off without having to pay to re-chrome. Use the very, very finest and use an ammonia cleaner with it, and you will probably be able to get a lot of that off without scraping it badly. Here's a piece of Roseville's Frisia pattern. One of the most common patterns, and in the brown particularly. Priced at $58, that's probably about retail these days. And I'm still looking for costume jewelry. I like the two little pieces I found earlier. I keep noticing copper lately. That one's a little bit corroded, and I don't think that's a Renoir or Matisse design, or Rabahe, which are the good names, but this one I believe is. So I think I'll ask to take a look at that. Ooh, here's a fun product. I was at the Delaware State Museum doing a wool carding display, and somebody said, "What is that thing?" because it didn't have the box, and I said, "Ooh, I can tell you all about that." This is the elasterator, and what it is a thing that stretches a very large rubber band that you put around the useful male parts of a goat, sheep sometimes, if you do not want them to breed. And that takes care of it, because then those useful male parts sort of shrivel up and go away, and that's the end of that. I suppose the animal probably doesn't know the difference, but yikes. I like old safety helmets. This aluminum one is going to be from the 50s, and it says safety first for Bell and Zoller Coal Company. There's a lot of interest in coal mining collectibles in these parts because a lot of those old mines are gone now, and people had relatives who worked in them. You'll see them in displays in restaurants and things. They really sell all over the country, though. Here's a bunch more pretty crackle glass from various Ohio river makers. All these little novelties were popular gifts in the time. Thing is that it was as hard for them to blow a little piece as a big piece. So the labor really was about the same regardless of size. So the companies made a lot of these little pieces, but they didn't make a lot of money on these little pieces. It was just as easy for them to use a little more product and blow a big piece and get more for it. These milk glass twist candlesticks with the pearlescent design are Westmoreland, and they're really neat with a candle in them. It's a great look, I think. 1950s and 60s. They've got these priced at $25 for the pair. That's a good price for those. The blue vase is Rum Rill. That one's probably made by Red Wing for them. Red Wing and Shawnee made their wares for them, and I really like that the handles are different shapes. It gives it a nice profile. Here we have the Spatterware Piggy Bank, and then the 1950s native head vases. Looks like a pair there. I'll have to find out how much those are. I'm out of head vases right now. Now here's a piece that might not seem remarkable, but this is actually something really good. This is Clover, and it's by Harker China, and this was actually designed by Russell Wright. It's got a little ledge in there that makes me wonder if it might have had a lid originally. So I'm going to have to look that up. But if it's what I think it is, $15 is a bargain price. So we will take a little investigation here. I put aside the Russell Wright piece, so let's see what else we've got here. These caramel colored bottle decanters and ewers are Italian from the 70s. Cased glass. It's a nice look. Around here, I always look at these because so many were made at the prison here in Kentucky rather than being Mexican. So I'm going to investigate these and see if there's any clues, like if it says HOM Mexico. When I was first a dealer, these old Hazel Atlas eggnog sets were everywhere, and they'd have either Jingle Bells or Auld Lang Syne on the side. These are from about 1950. This is priced at $30. I think that's about the right price for these. And there you go, Jingle Bells on the back. Eggnog is actually a really good tasting drink and fun to serve, but it involves raw eggs, and some people are really afraid of that. I served it at a party once. Everyone said it was really delicious, and then when they asked for the ingredients and I told them, no one would drink it after that. But if you're careful, it's safe, and I actually thought it was delicious. A little hard to read, but that is the Pyrex ink stamp. The colors would tend to wear if you dishwash them a lot, and that's a problem these days. Hard to find them in good condition. But they have these solid color rims, and they are really attractive, and the nice thing is that because the color's just on the rim, they look good when you serve food on them. You know how some patterns are really beautiful until you put the food on and then you can't see it anymore. This is a Westmoreland color of jadeite, a little creamier and more milk glass looking than the Fire King. This piece is priced at $25. To be honest, it's a good deal compared to the Fire King, which has just gone crazy, but they only made accessory pieces in Westmoreland. They didn't do tableware settings in it that I've seen. Airedales and other terriers. And then the whale. This looks like it could be Andrea by Sadek. Let's take a look. Nope, Masterpiece Porcelain, made by Homco. Okay. A lot of porcelain disc figures made in the 1970s and 80s like that. Well, holy shnikes, there's a hen-on nest in a color we don't usually see. This one has the red applied. I believe it's applied. Yes, you can see some of it's worn off, but it was actually painted onto the glass. We're used to seeing the milk glass with a little bit of red, or the clear glass with a little bit of red. This is clear glass with a whole lot of red. This will date to about 1970, and they even painted up the back of the tail, as we see here. So that's a little different. I like the color. Not sure how good that would be to serve things in, though. That paint seems like it could come off. and maybe get into your candy. Here's the colorful colors of Moon and Stars glass, which is definitely popular with collectors. Again, we saw a lot of this in the late 60s and early 70s. And it came in all the colors you see here. Very 1970s look. It was actually a revival of a Victorian pattern from the pressed glass era. On the left is a milk glass Fenton hobnail in the swung glass. A lot of people don't realize that Fenton did swung glass as well briefly in the late 60s. And then the blue satin candlesticks are, they've got a marked Fenton question mark, but I'm pretty sure those are Tiffany. And here's everything that you forgot you had in your medicine cabinet, including this wonderful product, saltpeter, which was used for various things as a diuretic. It was also used to reduce the sex drive in adolescent males at one time. And they made other wonderful things like castor oil and mineral oil and cough syrup and ammonia spirits. That must have been a fun place to work. Okay, well, I'm back from the flea market. Here's the little haul, not bad for a few hours work. Let's take a look at the things that we've got here, and I'll tell you a little about what I paid and what I think will happen with them. On the left, this purple swung vase is a great color. This came from the last little place that I hit on the way home, and look at that purple when you get it out where you can see it. It's an American-made piece. We see these time to time. I am not actually certain which of the Ohio River companies made this. Purple was really only in style briefly in the late 60s, so I suspect that it is from that period of time. I paid $15 for it. I think it's about a $40 to $45 piece. This crazy shelf, have never seen anything like it. The woven shoes and the hooks that they use look like things made in the 1970s, so I assume that somebody put this together. It'd be really fun, maybe with a bunch of hats on it in a display in a vintage clothing store. I believe I paid $7 for it. I imagine it should go for $25 or $30. I'm going to take it off here so that it does not fall on other things, because it's really heavy and I wouldn't want to crush everything else I bought, but I wanted to show you how it really is supposed to look. And then we have the sign. That came from somewhere in Indiana, and I just like signs, and North could be someone's surname or it could be something for a display. It was only, I believe, either $5 or $7. I expect it'll sell for about $20. The picture here is Bybee Pottery, and the folks who sold it to me knew about this. There's the original tag. They had $8 on it. Signature is BB. This is a later piece. Some of the earlier ones say Bybee. Bybee was in business for 200 years in Kentucky, and they just went out of business about 8 or 10 years ago after generations of family ownership in the little town of Bybee. So they're gone now, and that's kind of sad, but that crude hand-thrown, hand-shaped redware that's its appeal, and I believe that's probably a $20 piece. I showed you this. This is indeed a crimper for clothing, for cuffs, for shirts. It's Victorian. It's got patent dates on it. I think the most recent one says 1880 by the Penn Company. It's got all its parts. I paid $20. I haven't looked that up. I suspect that it's a $45 or $50 item. If it sells for anywhere near what it used to sell, that definitely is true. And then I got some other modern glass. The piece with the riggery is Pilgrim glass. This little green pitcher, I believe, is also Pilgrim. It has the look of something that will fluoresce, but that's not necessarily true. We're going to get a black light and prove it one way or another here right at the end. The Bittersweet, of course, is an L.E. Smith ashtray. They may have done that under the Fayette line, I'm not certain. The Fayette piece, or L.E. Smith piece, was an $8 item. I think that'll sell for about $18 to $20. The little wooden spoon, I believe I paid $4.50, and now that I realize there was also an Eisenhower button, which is probably still in the bag, I'm going to have to find that. Only paid $1 for the Rowan and Marcellus plate of Pittsburgh. And they don't sell for big prices like they used to, but I still think it's a $15 to $20 piece easily, and that's a pretty good markup there. The Starnes of California rooster hors d'oeuvre holders, we will sell these separately because they were not meant to come in a pair. They're not salt and pepper shakers. And these I paid $5 for the pair. I expect to get 6 or 7 each for them. So that'll be a nice thing, and they're cute. People like kitchenware. I paid $3 for the Korean War era Welcome to the Army booklet. I'm not sure what they go for. It was just something interesting. I imagine it'll sell for around 6 to 8. The jewelry, I only bought 3 pieces. I'm pretty selective about jewelry. I did notice this one is missing a rather hard to replace stone. I didn't really catch when I bought it that this is not the original stone that goes in there. And so I will have to send it to Rhinestone Rosie in Seattle. She does great repairs. Hopefully she has that stone. It's a little unusual. And I really hope she has it because this is a good pin. Even though brooches are not as popular as they were, I still have customers who wear these. It's japanned on the back, and the colors, with the exception of the stone that's replaced, are definitely right around 1970. People like this black, which is what they call japanning. And it's prong set, so it's not new. And it's got those sort of avocado colored stones, the purple and the blue. I paid $5. The repair, if I'm lucky and she has the stone, could cost as much as $15. Shaped stones can be harder to replace, but I still think that's a $45 or $50 pin. It may be by the Regency Company, even though it doesn't have their mark. And this one is Fun Modernist 4-leaf clover. I thought it was an interesting shape. I don't mind the duller silver tone. It gives it a nice look. It doesn't look cheap, and the big stone is nice in it. It's got the BSK mark on the back, and I paid $5 for that. I expect that that's probably a $20 piece at a show. And then I paid $6 for this. Nice cuff bracelet. It's copper. It's in good shape. It doesn't have scratches. That's very important, and the hinge works. It's got the Renoir mark underneath there, that little script that may be hard to see, but it's in there. And that's what we look for. We look for that, Matisse, and Rebaje primarily in the copper jewelry. That should be about a $30 piece. So for $6 it was worth getting. This little fan in the box is just cute, and I got it mainly because of the box. It's from the 1950s or 60s. Keep cool and be gay. That meant something different back when that was made, and there are some people who find that amusing. And so I figured for $2, it was fun just for the box. The Brownie camera here. This is something I paid $5 for. It's a Brownie Hawkeye from about the early 50s, and it seems to work, which is the important thing. And it's important in that people want them to work, but it's not necessarily a camera that a lot of people would use again, even though you can get film for them, because they made a very simple little snapshot. And I think the main appeal is that they look good on a desk. I have a ton of cameras, and you think, why would you buy one more? But the person I got the collection from liked the more serious ones, and that one is not actually a big collector one. It's more a decorative piece, and it should sell for $12 to $15. The Rainbow Crackle glass, that was $5. I expect that'll get $10 to $12. And I only paid $5 for this neat diorama picture from Arizona from about 1950. I haven't looked that up, but I suspect that'll go for around $25. And then this piece could be the real sleeper. This was made for Harkerware, but it was made by Russell Wright. It does not say Russell Wright like most of his designs. And it doesn't even say Harker clearly. It's very heavy glaze. So you just kind of have to know that that's the white clover pattern from the late 1950s. Now it does have a lip in here, so I'm going to need to see. It also has some spiders, so everything needs cleaning. Someone was offering this same piece with an imperfection for $100 on eBay right now, and I only paid $15. White clover is one of his more desirable patterns and less commonly recognized, so that was a good deal. So if you have a chance, if you have a midweek meet in your area, please do go out and patronize it, because It's great to be able to do these things on days other than weekends. A lot of us dealers can't get out and shop on the weekends because we have shows and sales and things to do too. So we really want to support these people. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you again. I'm George the Antique Nomad on Periscope, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and here on YouTube. Now twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. So we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.